Okay, welcome you all back to the Tangled Bank. Today we have our next speaker, Dr. Kailash Chandra. I request Professor Paramjeet Singh to please introduce our chief guest of the day.
Hi, good afternoon, all the participants of this webinar, second day. We are very fortunate to have Dr. Kailash Chandra as a special guest today. Dr. Kailash Chandra is the director of Zoological Survey of India, a prestigious premier research organization on all animals of the country. He is an authority on animals. He is a member of CITES. He is also on various committees of the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Dr. Kailash Chandra did his PhD in zoology from Kurukshetra University in 1986 on taxonomic studies on Pleurostic Scarabeidae, that is Coleoptera insects of Northwest India. And then he joined Indian Council of Agriculture Research, New Delhi, in division of entomology. He was a research associate there for 3 years. He was in Malaria Research Center of ICMR for 1 year. And in 89, I think both of us are contemporary. In 89, he joined Zoological Survey of India at Jabalpur. He has got a vast experience of working, exploring in different parts of the country, in different phytogeographical regions, in different biogeographical regions, in fact. And he was at Jabalpur. He established that regional center. Then he came to Calcutta headquarters. And in 2016, he joined the Zoological Survey of India headquarters as a director. He has worked in Solon Center, Port Blair, and has got a vast experience in, particularly his main interest is on insects. He has got more than 250 research papers, more than 60 books written by him. And he has been motivational force behind the young zoologists of the country, and has been working on molecular systematics of various groups, including insects. Today, he will be sharing with all the young fellows of the country the inspirations behind his work, what the challenges are there for zoologists, what are the opportunities there for zoologists, and his own experience of last more than 38 years. I will not be there between you and Dr. Chandra. I now hand over to Dr. Kailash Chandra for an inspirational talk on diversity of animal diversity in our country. Dr. Kailash Chandra, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Singh Saab. First of all, I would like to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, R.K. Kohli Saab, as well as Mr. Felix for organizing this national webinar on various aspects, particularly on the biodiversity. You have given a lot of introduction about me, but I say still I'm the student of the biodiversity, although I'm heading Zoological Survey of India, which is one of the premier organization in India, working under Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. Today I have been given to give a presentation on animal diversity in India. When we talk about the biodiversity, that includes the variety of animal, plants, microorganisms, and inter-area relationship between them. But this is a very vast subject that could not be covered within half an hour time. However, I will try to just give brief introduction about the animal diversity which is existing in our country, what is the role and how it is important for all of us particularly the human being, and how human being is having the relationship, internal relationship with other organisms which are present not only in our country, but across the globe. Before I come to this subject, I would like to give a brief introduction about the organization where I'm working. This is Zoological Survey of India, one of the very old organization of the country. This was established in 1916 onwards, and since then, around 104 years are completed serving the nation. We have a headquarter in Kolkata, and there are 16 regional centers throughout India. And headquarter along with all the regional centers in India, they are covering almost all the states and union territories, including Jammu and Kashmir, and recently our union territory, that is Ladakh region. And many of them are also covering the different ecosystems. So they are actually dedicated to study the various ecosystems, like freshwater ecosystems we have in Hyderabad, the marine ecosystem study we have not only in Andaman Nicobar Islands, but also in Gopalpur, Ganjam, that is Odisha, plus in Chennai, that is marine biological centers. So like that, for each and every ecosystems, we have dedicated centers in Zoological Survey. There are many primary as well as the secondary objectives, but most of the important aspect is to study, survey, and inventarize entire fauna of the country, of the all the states, all the ecosystems, all the protected areas of the country. If we'll see in that way, the task of the Zoological Survey of India is very, very vast. And beside this primary objective, there are many more objectives which I will not be able to cover here. But for the interest of the students who are participating today in this webinar, we have been rendering all the actually taxonomic studies of all the group of animals, starting from the protozoa to the mammalia. And this is the only organization as we know about the Botanical Survey of India. ZSI is also only one organization in the country which cover all the group of animals, covering more than 101,186 species of the animals and protista across the country. And most important, the aspect is to undertake the survey of all the protected areas and then monitor the biodiversity or the animal diversity which is present there. And many of the species are getting to the threatened category. Those are listed under IUCN. And those three categories which are listed under threatened categories are the critically endangered species, endangered species, as well as the vulnerable species. And their population sometimes goes up, and sometimes their population, when they are decreasing, then even there's no existence of a single specimen in the wild or in the natural conditions, or in even the zoo also, that become the extinct species. Fortunately, I could say that so far in any of the organization or the country, whether who are working on the various group of animals, they could not notify any of the species, either the plant or animal, which have become extinct from the nation, that is globally. But they may be locally extinct from the country. There have been many species which have been listed so far, including the Asiatic cheetah, Sumatran Java, and there are few species of the birds also which have been listed. And recently there have been many international actually treaties, and since India is also signatory to the international treaty under United Nations environmental program, then there are the Aichi targets, and there are also the Sustainable Development Goals. So during the conference of the parties at Nagoya Aichi, many of Aichi targets were actually notified, and many of them are also covering, and they are related to the study of the animal diversity as well as the biodiversity. Whether we have to understand the value of the biodiversity, then mainstreaming the biodiversity, then sustainable utilization of the biodiversity, then how we have to reduce the loss of the biodiversity in natural conditions, then whatever the resources are available with us, that how we can reduce the utility and how we can reduce their utilization. Then the invasive species are so important, and now every day, at least wherever we go, we come across the invasive species, and many of those invasive species which are not present in our country, and they are very much harmful to the nature as well as to our environment. They are encroaching the natural areas. Then protected areas, how we have to increase the area. Then the gene pool study. Similarly, for the sustainable goals, there are sustainable goals which have been set for the entire globe. But India has adopted only 12 sustainable goals. And the most important are the climate studies, that is 13 one, and the 14 one is the life below the water, and the 15 life on the land. So ZSI has been working for all areas, all the ecosystems, and for the last more than 104 years of our service to the nation, and the survey in each and every part of the country, around 5.8 million specimens have been collected. All of them have been registered, and they are also given this voucher number. And out of this 5.8 million specimens which are present in headquarters as well as the regional centers, of which around 38 lakhs or 3.8 million species are identified one. These 3.8 million species which have been identified, not species, specimens which have been identified throughout the country in headquarters as well as the regional centers, belong to more than around 60,000 species which are present in our country. And not only these our specimens, but beside these our reference collections in India, we have around 5,000 species which are new to the science are present in our National Zoological collection. And ZSI is also the national designated repository on the entire fauna of the country. It has been also told in many times that India is one of the mega diversity country in the globe, and it among the 17 countries which are so far notified. And again, if you will see it, there are 4 biodiversity hotspots in our country. That is, one is the Himalayan region, another is the northeastern India, then the Andaman Nicobar Islands, as well as the Western Ghats. So these are the 4 major biodiversity hotspots where we get many number of the species in comparison to the other areas, and they have a lot of endemic species of the plants as well as the animals. After having the compilation of entire fauna of our country, whether it's a protozoans, that is a unicellular specimens, or maybe the multicellular specimens, even to the largest animal, we call them as a terrestrial one is the elephant, or in the sea, that is the blue hole. So far, 101,681 species have been identified and recorded from our country. And within this, more than 1 lakh species, 91,420 species are only the invertebrates. That also excludes the protozoans. They are the unicellular animals. And among the single-celled animals, these protozoans have been kept under the animal kingdom Protista. And this particular kingdom includes 3,525 species. And there are around 640 species which are endemic to the country among the protozoans. Among the invertebrates, as I have mentioned here, they include more than 90% of the species. And there also we have many more endemic species. And as per our information, there are 26,782 species which are endemic to our country. That is coming to around 29% of the whole species which are recorded. That means to say that these are the species which are only recorded and found in our country. So far, they have not been recorded from any other country in the world. So they at least may become the sovereign right or the sovereign resources of the country, where we can have the right if anyone else country is using those resources. If you go to the higher classification, that actually the vertebrates, and these vertebrates are the having the skeleton, and that these vertebrates includes 5 major classes, which as per the old classification, that's the fishes, all the types of the fishes, whether it's freshwater fishes or the marine fishes, then amphibians, they includes frogs, toads, Sicilians, then reptiles, that includes snakes, lizards, geckos, even the turtles, whether it's a freshwater turtle and marine turtle, then birds, 1,343 species, then mammals, 429 species. So among all these vertebrates, there are around 6,736 species of the vertebrates which have been recorded. Of these vertebrate species, we have around 1,115 species of the vertebrates of these groups. They are endemic to our country. And they are also around 16% of the whole vertebrate fauna in the country. Not only the total animal diversity on which we have been working in ZSI, but ZSI has got, I will see the total strength 1,000 plus, and there are 100 plus scientists, and then many more scientists on the group level, B level, they are also working on animal diversity. So total diversity of the land as well as the terrestrial diversity, if we'll see it, it's coming around 80% of the terrestrial species and more than 20% of the freshwater and the marine species have been recorded from the India. As far as the soil fauna of our country is concerned, and among many groups, whether it's protozoans or the invertebrate groups, that classification, if you make it, that is having the microfauna, then the mesofauna, then again macrofauna and the megafauna. Megafauna mostly includes the mammal species in the soil, those who are making the burrow in the soil. Then macrofauna, that includes mostly the invertebrates, larger invertebrates, maybe scorpions and many other species. Then mesofauna, that includes the mites, even the small soil animals. And the microfauna includes mostly the rotifers and the tardigrades, plus the protozoans. And we'll be astonished to know it that even below the ground, what we call it the soil fauna, around 20,000 plus species have been recorded from the soil within our country. That information we have already published, and it's available in one of the manual. Beside that, ZSI had been working in different ecosystems, and these ecosystem, you'll see it, whether it's marine ecosystem, more than 20,444 species have been recorded from entire marine ecosystem of the country. And then the freshwater ecosystem, 9,500 species have been recorded from fresh water. Even from the mangroves, which is a very, very important ecosystem in our country, they are protecting us from the cyclones and many other typhoons, then other natural calamities. These mangroves are available in the seashore areas. Even during this recent amphan which happened in West Bengal, which was with the speed of 150 to 160 kilometers per hour speed, the mangrove which are present in Sundarban region, they have actually the protected many of the lives in West Bengal. If they would not have been there in the mangrove area in Sundarban, probably many of the life would have lost. Similarly, coming down to this these smaller group of organisms like insects, they are covering more than 65% of the total animal diversity. Even 65,419 species of the insects have been actually recorded from country. And many of the groups, our students may be aware, like there are the beetles which belong to order Coleoptera. There are the bees, wasps, and honeybees. They belong to the order Hymenoptera. Then the dipterans, even the mosquitoes, they belong to the order Diptera. And there are the hemipteran, they are the true bugs. Then there are many orders like our sorry, Neuroptera and others so on. So these are the 5 orders which are actually the important ones, and they itself cover more than 80% of the insect diversity, of which in India we have recorded 65,000 species. And the beetles, they also play a very, very important role in our ecosystem. If you'll see about the dung beetles or the chappers, dung beetles play a very important role in the ecosystem, and these beetles are actually the friends of the agriculture farmers in almost throughout India. In different part of the country, different species have been found, and they are also found in different levels of the soil, and they mostly feed on the dungs, and they different type of dungs, and they burrow those dungs to the soil, and that's why they play a very important role. And they also make the aeration or the oxygen content more in the soil, so they increase the fertility of the soil. But because of the use of the insecticide, pesticides in many areas in our country, the population has declined, as well as the distribution of the species which have been found in those areas, they're also declining. And therefore, there is a need for the conservation of these, particularly the dung beetle. And some students who are interested, they can study the ecology and their number of species. I have been working on this particular group for more than 35 years, and we have found that the species which we have collected earlier, last 15 to 20 years back, are not available in those areas from where they have been collected. So these are the major concern for that. ZSI, as you know, is the only organization which is working as well as the publishing the fauna of India. These are the important volumes with regard to this study of animals. So those who have acquired extensive as well as the intensive knowledge on those particular group, it may be only the bees, it may be a small group of even beetles, any group of animals, and that has been published only by the experts who gain the experience for more than 15 to 20 years. So far, 91 volumes of the fauna of British India have been published before 1947. And after 1947, 61 volumes of the Fauna of India have been published by Zoological Survey of India. So that together it's coming 152 volumes. They cover just 25% of the total species which have been described and recorded from the country. And there is still a lot of scope to undertake the study on the fauna in our country, although many of those checklists are also available in Zoological Survey of India website, and that itself gives the information almost all the group of animals. And there at least 81 groups have been covered. If students are particularly, if you go through our website, and they can see all those checklist of the animals. And if you want to see the publication of JDSI, which have been published from 1916 onwards till 2015, about last 1 century publication, there are more than 10,000 research papers, as well as 1,550 books. They have all been digitized, and all of them are available in our website. One can go through that publication as well as those records, and anyone can download all those publications without even having the registration. And that is available in the Fauna of India website. Even one has to write Fauna of India. An entire JSI publication for last 100 years are accessible. Coming to the fauna of all those states where we have already worked, even last year, the fauna of a state that is Punjab was actually released by our honorable governor in 2019. I'm happy our Director Botanical Survey of India, Dr. Paramjit Singh, as well as many other dignitaries were present at Chandigarh. And I just thank to entire our scientific community who have contributed to bring out the fauna of Punjab. But not only that, there are many other states, particularly the union territories, which have not been published. There we have been working, and I hope that within next 1 decade we'll be able to complete the document on entire fauna of states of all the country, as well as union territories. Then JSI, as I have mentioned, is working pan India, and there are 16 general centers as well as the headquarters. We have been documenting the fauna of all the biogeographic zones. So as far as the biogeographic zones are concerned, there are 10 biogeographic zones in India, starting from the Himalaya up to the Andaman Nicobar Islands. Out of these 10 biogeographic zones, from Himalaya itself, 30,000 plus species have been recorded. Even on this occasion, I would like to thank Honorable Vice Chancellor of Professor Kohli Sahab, who has supported Zoological Survey of India in a big way. And we could get one project, not only one, there are 5, 6 projects which are going on under the National Mission of Himalayan Studies. He's a chairman of the committee. We all thank him for supporting JSI. That's why we could able to bring out the entire faunal diversity information of the Himalayan region. And many more studies are also going on, particularly on the threatened species. Even the Trans-Himalaya, 3,324 species have been recorded. From the arid zone, 3,400 species. From the semi-arid, 5,000 plus species. From even the island, which you may be knowing, there are 2 major group of islands, Andaman Nicobar Island group as well as the Lakshadweep groups. In the biogeographic zone of the island, only Andaman Nicobar group of islands are covered. And these islands just cover 0.25% of the area of the whole country. And from this 0.25% of the whole country, more than 11,000 species of the animals have been collected and they have been reported, and that document also has been published by Zoological Survey of India. Similarly, for the coastal area, All along our peninsula, Deccan Peninsula, the JSI has worked it and compiled it. And more than 10,000 species have also been published from the entire coastal zone of our country, East Coast as well as the West Coast. So I have already mentioned that from marine, then freshwater, then estuarine ecosystem, 3,392 species have been reported. Then the soil, 21,000. Even from the seagrass ecosystem, 1,000 plus species have been recorded. Many of our scientists who are working on different group of animals in our country, they are not only the task to identify the species, but they also come across many new species. And every year we publish the animal discovery. Similarly, why Botanical Survey of India, they are publishing the plant discoveries. And that particularly volume of the animal discovery is being released every year on the 5th June, that is on World Environment Day, by Honorable Union Minister of Environment and Forest. As sometime even the Prime Minister and BSI and ZSI, they are publishing it regularly. Every year, almost 300 plus species have been described by Zoological Survey of India, which are new to the science, and as well as more than 200 species are new record to the country. And this regard, I would like to mention here that as we have this many species which are already known, but if you understand the total species which might be occurring in our country, it may be 3 or 4 times more. As we see the global our status, there is a possibility of having more than 8 million species across the universe, but only 1.8 million species have been described so far. So 3/4 species are still to be described and reported. So students, if they take up the interest to have the information of all these groups, whether it's plants or animals, and there's a lot of scope also for the future to undertake the studies, even to do many of the PhDs, even the DSCs, which could be taken up for them. JSI also has been rendering this identification services to our students, even the researchers, to the forestry department. And therefore, we also trying to have the entire database of the like 1,681 species which have been recorded. And all those species will have the information of the name of the species, their common name, then their distribution, what is their diagnostic characters, their photograph, and the area has to be chalked out in the GIS platform. And those digitization program of all those species is already going on. Once it is completed, and in between, at least for the type of species which are the important for description of the species have already been digitized. There are about 17,000 specimens, and that we are going to share with the entire our world. In recent years, we have also taken up the study of the DNA barcodes of all those species. The purpose of having the DNA barcode of all those our animal species, which are there in lakhs, it is not possible to do it in a few months or the few years. Last more than 7 years, we have been barcoding these species, and their barcodes are already uploaded in NCBI database, which could be accessible by anyone. And around 6,000 species have been barcoded by ZSI. And there are the major animal groups. I could say that the beetles, and there are another group that's butterflies and moths, and the spiders, then the thrips. These are the groups which have been taken up on the big way. But there are many species like endemic species, as well as the threatened species. The species, whenever they are described new to the science, we try to include this our DNA barcoding information along with all those publications. then it becomes the authenticate information for that particular species to understand their phylogeny. And that's why there is a need for having the digital sequence information of all those species, whether it's a plant or animals. So ZSI and BSI together, we are trying to have a genome center in Delhi that there is BGIR garden. That process is still going on. And once we have the DNA barcode of all those species, and we make a chip of all those DNA barcodes, we'll put in the computer. Whenever we get any species from the country, and if we extract the DNA from them and we'll compare with the database, immediately that will tell us whether that may be a new record to the country or that may be a new species for the country. So that may be helpful for a quick identification. Sometimes it even take even months and years. So as I have mentioned, there are the 3-4 groups, and all those papers are also published in different SCI journals. It may be mitochondrial DNA or the maybe scientific report. And there are many other journals where we have been. We have also been rendering this or identification services for the wildlife seized material. So from the entire our forest department, particularly wildlife, and other enforcing agencies, whenever they collect the specimens by this or the poachers and other things, they are sending the those samples to us. Earlier, they have to send the entire specimens, but nowadays, even if they are sending the part of those specimens, whether it's a tissue or any maybe skin or the feather or any of the material, if they are sending to us, we are able to identify them. And like that, thousands of our cases are solved in the care court, and our scientists go to the court as a witness because they have been identified. So that is the support we are making to the government of India, at least to the enforcing agencies for implementation and enforcing the law of the land. Sometimes even there is a wrong identification by the enforcing authorities, like in the fake material also being collected by them. So we also try to help those our people who are actually prosecuted, and if you're able to say them that this is not the actual or the maybe the species or the natural species, this is the fake material. So they are disposed from the, I think, custody. That is also one thing positive. We help the system. And many species, even as our Professor Paramjit Singh has mentioned, that is also the authority on the CITES. So whatever the species which are to be listed under Appendix 1 and Appendix 2 under CITES in the international program, we have been able to assess those species, then we can pursue that they should be listed in Appendix 1 species, then Appendix 2 species as per their population available in the nature. And that is one thing. They are conserved in the international level. There are more than around 700 species which are protected under IUCN, and then there are around 2,840 species which are covered under Wildlife Protection Act. There are 6 schedules, as many of the students are aware. Out of 6 schedule in Wildlife Protection Act 1972, 5 schedule includes animals, and the 6th schedule is of the plants. And these species, on the basis of their population, they have been kept in different category. And those categories sometimes changes as per their population when they increase or they decrease it. Even when we study those species in their natural condition, if they are having the isolated population in some of those landscape, that could be also maybe recommended as one of the critically endangered species or the endangered and the vulnerable, which are included in the threatened category. I'm happy to inform that our scientists for more than last 20 to 25 years have been exploring this Antarctic region. And I'm fortunate that I have been to Antarctica during 2020, 2001 for the summer season. And a lot of interesting informations were brought from there, which become the database for the future studies. As well as that's one of the important program is the monitoring of the fauna across the country. And until unless we have this or time scale data of all those countries, we cannot say whether that population of those species is declining or increasing. And if their population, as well as if their area is also decreasing, then at least those species could be recommended to be included in the conservation categories. Apart from this terrestrial ecosystems, there are two islands like Lakshadweep as well as the Andaman Nicobar Islands. Our team has been working to study those coral reef ecosystems. What are the areas which have been actually declining, and what is the impact of the climate change on the coral reef? Sometimes even the bleaching is there, which is also the international phenomenon. Even in the Australian Great Barrier Reef also it has happened. So JDSI could play a major role the conservation of this marine ecosystem as well. And recently, for last at least 4 5 years, uh, we have also started giving more emphasis on the critically endangered as well as endangered species to have their status, what is their population in those landscapes, and we can suggest what are the major regions for which their population is declining. And many of the species like ibex, then brown bear, maybe red panda. There are many species in the Himalayan region as well as the northern region, which have been actually studied by Zoological Survey of India. As far as the bees are concerned, that also we have been working. And then Lepidoptera, which was considered to be also playing a major role in pollination, particularly the moths who are not known. Recently, that study have also been taken up. One more important aspect which I want to share with the students at the last, that we also undertake many of the training program throughout the year by headquarters as well as the regional centers, and around 18,000 students are given the training, which are visiting to JDSI different places, and different aspects, maybe collection, preservation, and identifications. Even if you get a special request from students or organizations, then we can also help them for conducting the studies for the taxonomic studies. Many areas we have been connecting the program, and even we have the regional museums in many places, as well as the headquarters, that is Indian Museum. So many of the visitors, they visit to JDSI, and they could get a lot of information on the entire faunal diversity of the India. This is in a very brief, I could share the information with all the participants and the experts present during this webinar. And thanks all for participation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation. We are really humbled to have you here with us today and to deliver a fantastic talk on animal diversity. You have covered a lot of topics. I really appreciate your efforts on these lines. I request Professor Paramjit to give a few words, and yeah, let's start discussion.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
I think Dr. Kailash has been very busy, and I think in spite of his very busy schedule, his I mean, a lot of meetings were organized by his institution today, but he agreed to share and interact with the students today. And I think students will take his offer for internship or summer sort of thing in ZSI. And I will request all students, younger people who have been interested in biodiversity, to at least visit once ZSI and BSI in Calcutta. They are very old organizations, but they have, I mean, wealth of information with them. Students can have some idea about, but in these virtual days, I think if ZSI and BSI both create some virtual tours also that will be very useful for students. That's my.
Sir, this is very good suggestion. We have already been thinking of it. We'll do it immediately, at least on video. Maybe 1,000, 10,000, any number we will try to have it, and then we'll get the training program.
Yeah, yeah. And Dr. Felix, I think you must be having number of questions with you now. I think
I will welcome any question on zoology.
Oh,
yeah.
I am
Or
starting
any aspect. I think not only zoology. I think there will be so many questions from students.
Yeah, that is so thankful to you, sir. And I think we can start our question and answer session.
Yes,
yes. So let me start with one of the questions here asked by Ram Kumar from Delhi, one of the participants. He's asking, what is known about the diversity of stygofauna and troglofauna in India? Stygofauna and troglofauna in India. That is asked by Ram Kumar, yes.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Hello, yes, sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you audible?
Sorry.
I think you mute your phone. You mute your microphone.
Now I think it's okay.
Yeah. Unmute
Yes. You want to know the diversity? This is about, I think, invertebrates, which is coming under the crustacea. And these are the two groups which are very little known from the country. Web hip, I think he's talking about the web hip, which are very, very rarely known. Okay. But number of species, if you want, you can write to me that I will be giving the information, total number, how many species are known from the country. Immediate, I do not have the list, but I can give the number. I'm having all the information with me.
So I have a couple of questions, Dr. Kailash.
These two groups, I can give the number. Only thing I require one male.
Perfect. Over to Vinay.
Yeah. So it's a great privilege for our departments, and you can say we have ex-director of the Botanical Survey of India, as well as the present director of the Zoological Survey of India, and we have a very good ecologist, Dr. R.K. Kohli, in our university. So it's a great privilege for all of us, and yes, definitely whatever you give the deliberations here, that proved that every 4 days you are documenting 3 new species from the India. So it's really a very great task, and definitely you are not only working for the identification and the classification of the different fauna, but also doing some other important assignments, you can say, for the preservation of those things also. So now my question is that, is DNA barcoding is enough for the classification of the fauna, or you are also thinking about another parameters? And the second thing, this is the first question, and I can ask the another question. So please go ahead with the answer of this one.
Well, it's very, very important and pertinent question for ZSI as well as the BSI. But I would say that with the strong confidence that we are all traditional taxonomists in ZSI and BSI. So who are interested to describe any species of any of the group, whether it's plants or animals, unless they are expert on that particular group, they should not take up only these our molecular studies. And on the basis of DNA barcode, they should never identify or describe any new species. Once they know the group, only they should take up such studies. And on the basis of the morphological characters, as well as other tools, only they should first ascertain what type of that particular group is. Because I know and I am sure that more than 10% of the data which is available in NCBI, it's not the correct identification on the basis of DNA barcodes. So those specimens are first to be identified by some expert. And when we see that such an species, any complex is there, or any doubt because of the morphological characters it is there, then only for the comparison as well as for the having the phylogenetic studies, we should have the DNA barcode. So that has to be done only by the experts. I will never suggest that any student who is not having any knowledge on that particular group, hierarchy, as well as the complex studies on that particular group of maybe invertebrate, vertebrate, even maybe the insects, or even microorganisms also. They should not venture. Otherwise, this will lead to the wrong information in the future also.
Sir, we have a question from Dr. Arvind Goswami, and he's asking a question: how justifiable is coal mining in Dehing Patkai Elephant Reserve? That is his question.
Northeast, you are talking, it's news.
Northeast.
It's news. It's in news. A lot of even I think we are getting our opposition to that. It's actually they are taking up environmental impact assessment studies by various our organization agencies, and they only actually recommend it whether those actually areas are to be allowed for mining or not, and even they also suggest what are those species which are having the critically endangered species from that area. And on that basis, only those projects are sanctioned, developmental projects are sanctioned by the Government of India, particularly the Ministry of Environment and Forest. If those studies are not taken in a proper way, and I could say incomplete reports are submitted to the authorities, then I think they take all those decisions. And therefore, it is necessary to have a holistic view of each and every development area where we are going to undertake the study. And then only they could be actually allowed to have such mining in those areas.
There is a second question from my side, actually, Dr. Kailash.
Yes, Bolia.
Yeah, everyone is discussing about the hotspots. So it's natural. Most of the diversity is present in the hotspots. But what is the contribution of the research in the known spot areas in terms of the identification of the known species, especially in the plain northern India? You can say Rajasthan, Haryana, and Punjab. So how many species are discovered from these plain areas? And is they are really in much number or they are less in number? And what are the renowned researchers from these areas who are working?
Very good question. As I have already mentioned in my presentation, there are 10 biogeographic zones, starting from the Himalaya to up to this Western Ghat, or you can see from Andaman Nicobar Islands. And each and every biogeographic zones have been classified on the basis of their forest and vegetations. And accordingly, only this our animal species are present there. If we'll talk about any plain area, so all those plain area which consider that is present in the Gangetic plains in the Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, and toward the west, that is the desert as well as the semi-desert area in Rajasthan and the Gujarat area. When we undertake the survey of these areas, the number of specimens and the number of species might be less, but they are quite interesting species. They may not be found in other areas which are present in the desert ecosystems. But we cannot say that they are least important. They are very, very important. And we have the database, even BSI also has got the database for the plants, and JSI is having the database for the animals from these areas. But the number certainly is less from these areas. And how we just notify them as a hotspot area in different places. That is on the basis of the total number of species, as well as the endemic species, and how many species, particularly the vertebrates and in angiosperms in the plants. If there are many numbers and many numbers are endemic, then only those hotspot areas are classified.
So,
but
Alex,
any of those are not less important. That is very, very important.
We have a question from Smita Krishnan, one of the participants, and she's asking, what are your thoughts regarding African cheetah introduction program in India?
Very good question. This has been pending for many years by the government of India. I think some decision has been taken at government level, and they are going to allow to get introduced in the Kuno Wildlife Sanctuary, that is Madhya Pradesh. And some process is going on for that. Wildlife Institute of India is already working. And the genesis of those cheetah species, whether it should be brought from the Iran or from the Africa, it has got different. But although the Iranian one was known to be nearer to us, but there are actually some researches which are going on that the cheetah who were present in India, some of the population were also similar to this our African cheetah. So still there is just a lot of debate and some molecular studies, even JDSI also worked out. We have published one paper on this aspect. But I think this is important aspect, and government has already almost, they have taken the final decision to get it introduced cheetah in the Kuno Wildlife Sanctuary in Madhya Pradesh.
So there is another question from my side actually.
Yes,
So I don't know too much about the JDSI and the BSI, and I hope I will come in Kolkata and visit both the places. But my question is related to the agriculture point of view. So do you discriminate the species which are necessary for the increasing the agriculture yield, at least in the plain area, Punjab, Haryana, which are, you can say Odisha, which are very good for the rice cultivations? So what are the different fauna which are necessary, and we must avoid the spray of the pesticide to preserve them for improving the yield as well as the tolerance against the abiotic and the biotic stresses? Yeah.
Very, very interesting question. And agro ecosystem, which you are talking about. I'm happy that we have also worked on agro ecosystem, and the entire fauna of agro ecosystem we have been compiling, and that book also you'll be getting very soon, at least soft copy will be sending to you. As you know, the entire ecosystem, the habitat, maybe the environment.
Very, very.
First, it is natural environment, and it is natural vegetation. What we talk about the agriculture, all those species have come from the natural ecosystem. Maybe initially rice, wheat, they might have come from there. And not only that, in India, at least I could say it, that there are a lot of varieties which have been grown earlier. Local varieties, what we call them. They are in thousands, sometimes maybe 10,000, 20,000. But when our green revolution happened in our country, that time only selected varieties were introduced to have a highest, I think, our crop yield. And for that purpose, only those varieties were introduced. And when we have started agriculture for those species, although the yield increased, but simultaneously those species which were there in the natural ecosystem, they have also started infesting through those agriculture crops. And whenever a species which were there in the natural condition, if their number increases beyond the threshold level, then they become the pest. And they become the pest for the humankind because we are growing the crop. And once those number of the pest and the population increases, then we start applying the pesticide and insecticides. So when we apply insecticide and pesticides to those environment, whether it's agriculture or any other ecosystem, then that remains there for long. And that is the major reason, particularly in northern India, there's a lot of diseases happening in our human being, as well as now residue is present in soil. That is also creating, because of that, our population of not only the insect, but many other species which are important for those ecosystem, their population is also declining. And as a beneficial insect, as a beneficial animals also, they are not able to play a major role. So that had been a very, very devastating position. Now we are reverting back to our natural condition, from where we have started, particularly in India. Entire our agriculture system, earlier it was organic. Now there is advocacy for all those organic farming. Now we are returning back because now we are self-sufficient in our food stock and all those species. And it's right perspective for all of us, and we should adopt it.
So we have one question from a PhD scholar. I mean, no, he's not a scholar, but his name is Muzaffar from Ladakh. He's
Yes.
asking, sir, how can ZSI help in funding the researchers, in bracket PhD holders? And he is adding, as after this pandemic, there is a huge loss of employment. So how can ZSI help in this manner?
Very, very important question. As far as the employment to our researchers, even those who are completing their MSc in botany and zoology, we are having a lot of concern to them. Although many of thousands of people are working in ZSI and BSI, and I'm happy to share that we have been advertising the post of JRF, SRF, as well as research associate, and the PDF post every year, more than hundreds. But this is not enough number. What I mean to say that we want to have this our researchers, or I can say the biologists in all the 8,000 plus grids which are present in our country, which are of the 1 into 50,000 scale. So all those biologists, if they are employed throughout our country, and then if they start monitoring those plants and animal species, that would be of immense help for the conservation of the biodiversity in our country. We have already, I think, made some recommendation as well as the proposal to the government of India. That is still in the PMO office. It was under the biodiversity mission, wherein BSI, ZSI, and many of the universities and other institutions are also involved. But ZSI and BSI, we have already proposed to have thousands of people under this biodiversity mission. And hopefully, anyone, whenever this advertisement or this is approved or sanctioned, we can have any number of the students who are completing. But beside that, one thing I would like to mention here, those who are considering themselves by the expert on any of the group of animals, they can send their biodata if they have completed their PhD in taxonomic studies. I will try to engage some of our ZSI activities, whether in some project or maybe in PDF form or research associate in our organization.
So
I'd be happy to just support them.
It's a good thing that BSI and the ZSI are also contributing in the Skill India. And I have another type of the questions. Both ZSI and the BSI are working very well. And the reason is that we have too much bioresources and they are extensively comprehensive investigating the different species and arranging them in a particular order. But my question is that, is there any interdisciplinary section in between the ZSI and the BSI in which we can investigate? Being a plant biologist, my problem is something different. So is there any interdisciplinary section in which we can identify or can capture a particular animal behavior in the presence of plant metabolites? So for such type of the researcher, where we should go and apply for the funding?
Well, this is again for the information to all the students as well as this our faculty members across the whole country who are working on zoology as well as the botany, that BSI and ZSI, these two organizations are already having MOU with many of the universities as well as the national and international organizations to collaborate the work on different fields. If you have the project or if you have the students who are getting the fellowship under your supervision, I think ZSI and BSI will welcome to collaborate it, and there will not be any problem for them. These are the activities already going on with many universities and colleges, as well as the institutions. Only the thing we want this proposal, and if you have any student or if you have any proposal for funding, then it could be done. And there is already one funding, I think I could say a scheme in Government of India, Ministry of Environment and Forest, that is All India Coordinated Project on Taxonomy, ICOP-TEX, what we call it. All the taxonomic projects are being funded by these ICOP-TEX, which are being actually monitored and then by Botanical Survey of India. They are receiving the proposals for that.
So we have one question from Ashutosh Misra. He is very active participant here in this program. And his question is that what could be the main reason for the disappearance of mongoose from the local village areas? And he's citing his own experience. Because there were a number of mongoose I had seen in our childhood days, but for now they are just vanished.
It's really worrisome. I know all those reasons what for this number of mongoose population is disappearing from not only our country, but many other neighboring countries also. In fact, mongoose are killed not in thousands, several thousand mongoose are killed every year. And that report is also available. And the purpose for killing the mongoose is to have this brushes. So if they have to sell the brushes, because these brushes for that, the hair of the mongoose are being used for the purpose of making the brush. Because they are very, very fine, actually, the hair, but could be a fine painting. And that is the major reason. This was stopped earlier, but still, I think it's even JDSI also, we are getting tons of, not tons, I get the boxes of our mongoose hair for identification. Whenever they are identified, we send it to the enforcement authorities and then prosecute the people. But this is happening.
So there is another question from my side. Could you make any remark on the conservation of the fauna to our students? See what we should do, what are the
conservation of
animals, fauna,
okay,
small insect and some other. How could we conserve them? How could we protect their natural environments in our backyards? Yeah, something like that. Could you make any statements here?
Yes, very, very important. And what I have been advocating so far, that the Homo sapiens species, what we call it, the Homo human being, had become the center stage among 1.8 million species. So it has been understood that Homo sapiens has to utilize all other 1.8 million species for its purpose. But we are one of the species among 1.8 million species. We do not have the respect and mutual, we can say it's a sharing of the respect for each and every species. If you have the respect for all other species, if you see this, our corona, COVID-19, which has happened, it's just a virus which is invisible, and it's also part of the biodiversity. It's present somewhere in the environment, which we are not able to see it. But one day it just appeared, it got into the human body, and now it's spreading throughout the globe. So we should not disrespect the environment. We should not disrupt any species, whether it may be the minutest one, because they are playing their role, which has got the food web as well as the food chains. If we disrupt any of these species in the food chain, it's going to have the repercussions on our entire ecosystem. And ultimately, we have to face. They cannot say what the problem they are facing, but certainly it's the loss of the entire environment. But as far as the conservation is concerned, for each and every species, JDSI as well as the VSI, they have the status survey of all those species. Like in IUCN, there are about 700 species which have been kept in different categories. Similarly, there are in Wildlife Protection Act, around 2,800 animal species. Then CMS species are there. Then there may be CITES species. So all of these species have been kept under different conservation categories. So we undertake the status survey and we inform the system enforcement authorities to undertake some study, then have some management practices, conservation plan, so that those species could be protected. Because we are the advisory bodies, and the forest department, who are the custodians of the entire biodiversity, they have to conserve it.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we have already crossed, the time. I'm really sorry because I'm sure you're a really busy person, and yeah, we have overshot by 10 minutes now. Yes, Vinay, would you like to ask one more?
Just one thing I would like to add.
Welcome.
Dr. Kailash, I would like to add one thing, good remarks about your presentation. You are the person who present their work without PowerPoints, and you are just like a recorders of all the data. So this shows that how much Indian Geological Survey of India and the Botanical Survey of India has the resources. So they not only have the diversity, but they have good leadership also. So it's a appreciable words from my sides, and I really enjoyed your lectures.
Yes, one thing I would like to just share with you. It's just tip of the iceberg, which I have just shared with you. We have more than 40 phyla in animal kingdom. Even one phyla like has got the classes. Then one class is insecta. Within insecta, we have 30 orders. In one order has got 150 families. And nowadays, we do not get even expert on one family. So I want the support from all the students, researchers who could support this, our study of entire ecosystem, plants and animals, even the microorganisms, so that entire information may be collated and that could be actually having the better database. So at present we have the our country in 8th ranking in the world. This ranking could be increased even to the 3rd, 4th or 5th level. So that is my actually suggestion to our researchers. This is nothing actually. Each and every group has got its own presentation, and it may be 1,000 presentation in one JDSI.
So nice.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you, sir. Thank you from bottom of my heart for being with us today and enlightening with us with your knowledge, vast knowledge, and sharing your experience with us. And
Most
we
welcome,
do
sir.
have one more. Yes, we also have one more person from ZSI. I'm sure you know him. He is your colleague Subramanian KA. He is from Chennai. He's going to talk on dragonflies and damselflies. It's coming on this series after a few days. Yes.
Oh, I know that all those names I have already seen it.
Yeah.
So we have many hundreds of our speakers. Don't worry. Whenever you need, I will just ask them to just be in front of you.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much, Felix.
Thank you, sir. And over to Professor Paramjit. Please conclude the session.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kailash Chandra, for giving such a fantastic overview of our animal diversity in the country. In fact, Dr. Kailash is an encyclopedia of animal. You have any question on any topic? I could see there are so many other questions were there, but I think anybody can mail him. Another request through NIAS platform I would like to make. You see, this we are nowadays in our country, youngsters are just going for lab-oriented work. Nobody is interested in field work. I will through NIAS, I will through Chairman NIAS, through Felix, I will like to suggest that youngsters should go out in the nature, and unless they go out, BSI, ZSI alone cannot complete the task, unfinished work which is still there, and new challenges which we are facing. Dr. Kailash, so nice to have you. I think you will join us whenever you free.
Anytime you call us, I'm there, sir.
No, we are there for another 3-4 days. Even on 5th, we are. I know you are on 5th. You are very busy because
Yes,
you have
ministry program is
environmental
there.
function.
But if I'm having the time, I can join. No problem.
In the evening at 3 o'clock, we will be having a valedictory section, valedictory function, and we will be happy. Thank you very much, Dr. Kailash, for
Thank
sparing
you
your
very much,
time.
Singh sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks to
Thank
entire
you.
team, sir. Thank you to
Thank
our
you,
Vice
sir.
Chancellor, sir, Kohli sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I welcome all of you for next session is tomorrow. Is here Varad Giri is going to talk on snakes. So I will see you tomorrow at exactly at 11 o'clock. So until then, goodbye to all of you.